Hello and welcome to The Final Frontiersman, a YouTube channel about all things Trek with a heavy focus on the Star Trek Adventures role-playing game. I'm Bill, and today it's going to be a very short video. We're talking about the news from just a few days ago, where Star Trek Adventures 2nd Edition has been announced by Modifius. This came as a pretty big surprise to a lot of people. It's getting a lot of opinions thrown out there, but I just want to cover some of the important points about what we know at this point. And that's pretty much it. Just to give everyone a heads up and just let you know what the official information is, because there's a lot of speculation going around. There's a lot of theorizing that is spreading, and some of it is getting lost in translation and being taken as fact by some people, and it's starting to worry and confuse some people. But anyhow, this is the official information as of this point, just a few days after it was officially announced. Star Trek Adventures 2nd Edition, it's a brand new 2nd edition, but the main point, the big point that I want everyone to know, I want everyone to remember, regardless of some of the panicking you might read on social media, this is going to be fully compatible with 1st edition supplements and 1st edition books. They will go into that later. Modifius will explain more later how compatible it is and how easy it will be to switch back and forth between 1st and 2nd edition, depending on which version you like. But the majority of the game, the majority of the rules, you can imagine are going to be pretty much the same. It's still using the 2D20 system, and there's a whole line of 2D20 products by Modifius. They're all different in their own ways, but they have that same fundamental background, and the same thing is going to be true here. So don't expect huge changes that will make it impossible to use what you had in 1st edition. That is not the case. They've said time and time again, all of the writers, Jim Johnson, I'm saying it myself, nothing that I've seen suggests this will not be incompatible between the two versions, 1st edition and 2nd edition. So don't panic. Don't think any of the books you have, any of the stuff you've made thus far for Star Trek Adventures, don't think that that's not going to be usable in 2nd edition. Everything you have is still going to work. This is just a different approach to the Star Trek Adventures line. Don't panic. It's going to be okay. The next thing that they have mentioned is for the core book, compared to the original core books, the starting species are going to be a lot more diverse. And I think they're trying to incorporate what we have seen in supplements over the last 7 years. Can you believe it? It's like the whole run of TNG. 7 years of Star Trek Adventures, where they're constantly adding new things and revising and refining things. We got to play as any polity, not just Starfleet, not just Klingons. They introduced ways through the Player's Guide, GM Guide, and other means. So I can imagine when you're having the diverse species to choose from, the whole variety you have to choose from, it's so that, of course, you can play any kind of game, any type of game that you want, just as been established over the lifespan of 1st edition. So I think the core book is going to put that right there from the start, so you don't have to go hunting down other supplements or the 1st edition supplements to do it. It's going to give it to you and give new players that opportunity from the beginning. That's how it sounds to me. And that seems to be pretty obvious from the wording. But again, the details are going to be coming in a future update. As I said, it's still the same core 2D20 mechanics, but they are going to be streamlined, and they are going to be represented in a way that makes it smoother, and I would imagine easier to learn for new players. For example, combat. starship management, character creation, and all of the complex task mechanics that appear in first edition are going to be more refined and have a refreshed version available in second edition. And those were the elements that constantly get complaints or constantly get questions because they are confusing to new players. So it makes sense that what Modiphius has learned over the course of the 7 years and the optional rules that have been popping up over these 7 years in various elements, various source books and supplements, they are going to be used to create the most efficient, easy to play rules for Star Trek Adventures going forward. The next thing, or maybe I should say the final official point that's been released, is the fact that you can play as characters and in eras from a whole variety of Star Trek series that weren't licensed when the original first edition core rulebook was released. And they specifically mentioned they now have Strange New Worlds and Prodigy available as part of the Star Trek Adventures line. And if you look at the picture behind me, actually, let's do this the old-fashioned analog way. Let me just close the camera. Take a look. This is the official image of second edition that they've released for the press release. This you can see on the lead character, the captain character in the center, Strange New Worlds uniform. But look, you see uniforms from pretty much every era of Star Trek. So from the start, the core rulebook is showing that it's covering pretty much the history of Star Trek as a franchise. If you look there behind the captain, you have a TNG uniform, you have a Tellarite in an Enterprise uniform, up front, close and personal, you have a is that, I was going to say a Vulcan. Their ears look pointy. Are they pointy enough, or is it just my eyes are bad? But you have a science officer again in original series or Strange New World style uniform. You have the TOS movie uniform, the Monster Maroon behind that. You can see it looks like a season 3 final episode Star Trek Discovery uniform. There is a Voyager DS9 science officer uniform, and in the back it's kind of hard to tell, but that looks like civilian clothing, so again representing the fact that you don't even have to play Starfleet. One to beam down, please. Hey, look, I'm back. So that's all the official information we know thus far about Star Trek Adventures 2nd edition. If you hear people talking about any other point as a fact, just kind of take it as being speculation that is being misinterpreted as fact, because what I just told you now, that's the only official line that has been put out here. Again, I find it exciting. It was a surprise to me when I heard it, but it makes sense. 7 years on in the role-playing game is quite long. Plus, Modiphius has said time and time again, Jim Johnson mentioned multiple times, that they learned a lot as they went over the years, and you can see in the supplements how they make tweaks and refinements to different elements of the game. They add new stuff in that they didn't have the ability to add when the game first came out, because they didn't have the licenses for those properties or those concepts that came up in those properties. It makes sense now to release a new jumping on point for new players, or a way of streamlining it. It's fruits now. So streamlining it for old players who want to have, or maybe are not happy with certain elements that were a little too clunky in first edition. So it makes sense now to put out a book like this. As for when it's going to be released, sometime fall this year, fall 2024. They're aiming for debuting it at Gen Con this year. So most likely the book will see the light of day at Gen Con, but as far as being able to own your own copy outside of that, The only information right now is fall 2024. But as I said, there's a lot of mistaken and misinterpreted information starting to spread around. So the best way that Modifius recommends, if you want to make sure you have the true up-to-date information for second edition, what's going on, what's being announced, what's being released, they recommend that you sign up for their newsletter. So I'm going to put a link to that down below in the description as usual. I'm already subscribed to it on 2 different email addresses apparently, because I get 2 copies in every single time. And yeah, it's a great way to stay in touch, and they're going to send the information out. So if you want to make sure you're not being led astray, I do highly recommend you sign up for that newsletter, so you know as soon as the world knows anything else about Star Trek Adventures 2nd edition. What do you think? Are you excited? I am. I know I have the whole run of 1st edition, aside from the adventures, the supplements containing the adventures and that, or all of them, I should say. I do have some. So I know I don't have to get rid of these books. I know I'm still going to be using them. I know they're still going to be useful from this point forward. But I am excited to see what changes come in 2nd edition, what official changes come in 2nd edition, and make the adjustments here and there in my game for which version I like better for whichever element of the game it is. So I like having those options, and of course I like having brand new beautiful core rulebook that I can flip through, read through, and hopefully be easier to reference than the very first rulebook that came out for Star Trek Adventures, which I love. This one seems to have a strange new worlds theming, or at least visual aspect to it, if the image they released, the image behind me right now, is any indication. So that's going to be a nice change of pace, even though I do love my LCARs. But we'll see. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too. What do you think? Share your feelings down below in the comments, or get to me on social media, anywhere. It would be fun to talk about it, and let's stay positive. Let's stay positive about it. There's a lot of people panicking that they can't use 1st edition books. That's not true. There's a lot of people panicking. I don't know. Some people are saying it's a money grab. Like when has Modifius ever seemed like they're trying to grab money? They give PDFs for free no matter where you buy their product. I mean, there's a lot of huge big name companies making role-playing games that I buy, I play, and you can't get the PDF for free. If you want it, you're paying extra for it. If Modifius wanted to grab money, I mean, that's the first step they would take. Like, oh, sorry, we can't afford to give free PDFs out. They would be charging for that. So I don't get where that come from. And I don't get where, also, it's almost a soapbox alert here, but I don't get where some people are saying they don't trust that Modifius, the crew, the writing staff, are saying that it's compatible with 1st edition. Like, when have they lied to us? They're part of the community. The writers for the book, many of them on 2nd edition started as players, just like us, and they got their writing positions. They're as much players, they're as much fans as us. When have they been lying to us? They've always treated us well. So I don't know. I don't get it. I just think it's people panicking because something new, and they feel they're losing their beloved 1st edition, but it's going nowhere. The books are changing, the style's changing, but everything we love that's been printed up until now is still going to be there. Like I said, I'm still running my game the way I like it, and I'm just going to change any element that I think will make my game better. So I don't know, stay positive, share your thoughts, and yeah, that's it. That's all for this week. I got a few other videos in the oven currently, so hopefully those will be out in the coming weeks. But until then, stay safe out there, my friends. See you next time. Peace and long life.